Welcome to Suburban On Air. Mike Cohen joining you to talk a little bit about hockey injuries and a great fundraiser. Hockey 911 is back for a second edition. This time it's a virtual model. I was privileged last year to be at the Bell Center for the first edition. It was really such a unique event. And this year, of course, it's going to be online November the 17th. And it's going to be free for people to watch. And of course, they're going to be looking for donations. So, and there's a lot that the Montreal General Hospital does. Jean-Guy Gourdeau is the CEO of the Montreal General Hospital Foundation. Kirk Muller, of course, is an NHL veteran, associate coach of the Montreal Canadiens, and of course, a former star and captain for the team. And Dr. Dan Deckelbaum is a trauma surgeon and assistant to Dr. David Mulder as a team physician for the Montreal Canadiens. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Really privileged to have you with us.
Thanks for having us.
So Jean-Guy, as I said, I was there last year. I'm sure when COVID hit last March, you never thought that by November you'd have to shift gears and change the format. So how did this all come about?
Well, the first year event was a great success, and we definitely wanted to have a second event. And with COVID, like you mentioned, we got creative. We said we're going to have a virtual event instead, and without the limitations of capacity. So being virtual, the event, we're making it free this year. So we definitely encourage everyone to share the news. Invite your friends, your colleagues to sign up, register for the event. And this year, given that the event is in the off season, we'll be fortunate to have some of the current players as well and current coaches be part of the event, which is great for us. The event really helps build the awareness of that very special connection that the Habs have with the Montreal General Hospital. It's a long history, dating back decades. We have Dr. Mulder, that's been a team physician for over 50 years and now mentoring the likes of Dan Deckelbaum and many of our other great physicians that we have. So for us, it's a great way to share behind the scenes stories that people don't necessarily know about. And really share that special connection that the doctors have with the players that often extend way beyond the playing careers that the players have.
Absolutely. And last year I went up to Gregory Charles during the event and I told him next year wear a referee shirt because as he's the MC. And so maybe you can just remind Gregory of my suggestion. So Gregory's the MC and there's going to be Shea Weber, Brendan Gallagher, Nick Suzuki, head coach Claude Juliens. And of course, Kirk Muller representing the Canadiens. It's going to be talking about playoff injuries. Kirk, I'm sure you've had your share of playoff injuries. Do you want to share a few?
Well, it's I have certainly, and we'll share some of those stories when Dr. Mulder is involved because he was the one that took care of me back in '93 during the Stanley Cup Finals. And the fact was, quick story, I tore the ligaments off my collarbone, the first shift of the first series. And we were able to go 4 rounds, win the cup. But if it wasn't for the treatment and help with Dr. Mulder back then, I probably wouldn't have got through those series. So, it's stuff like that it's the family connection that it's the doctors like Dr. Deckelbaum and Dr. Mulder, these guys that we got to know as Montreal Canadiens, and how we create not only a relationship between them and us as doctors and patients, but it's a family. And as the Habs, we always say that we like to consider ourselves a family, and the Montreal General was a part of that because we worked well together over the years and still do. And it's a great relationship, getting to know the guys, the doctors, and how well they treat us. So, if it, like I say, I might not have a ring on my finger right now if it wasn't for Doc.
Kirk, you of course stepped in as the interim head coach when Claude Juliens was hospitalized, and you had a very big injury with the team. Brendan Gallagher broke his jaw, and that had to be tough to watch and see.
Yes, it was. And we all know what he brings to the team. I mean, he's the heart and soul of the club. Everyone loves the passion that he brings, and that unfortunate situation, held them out, that last game, which we could have made a big difference of having them on the ice. So, it's we've seen. I think I've been with the Habs for 12, 15 years over as a player and a coach and that, and seen so many different injuries and seeing all those different injuries. It's amazing that you have the full confidence in the doctors that we have that they're going to be fine and everything, and in that care. But to see him with that broken jaw was not pretty. I mean, he still was talking, he was still chirping, still competing, still as if it was like a bruised jaw. So I mean, that's the character, that's the kind of guys we love to have. And with the additions we made this summer, we're really excited about the group we're moving forward with.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it. Dr. Deckelbaum, you're an epidemiologist, and when the season does resume, presumably in the winter, COVID is still going to be with us. That's not an injury, but that's a whole new medical thing that's come into sports. And how do we deal with it? COVID and the Canadians possibly coming back, maybe having to play in a Canadian division. It's not going to be in a bubble. I mean, what's going to be your involvement in Dr. Mulder as we deal with that?
Yeah, so that great question. And I think, we all actually had the same question before the playoffs back in last spring. And we said, well, how is this actually going to function, especially while cases were rising? And I think that when we were, actually a lot of credit goes to the team that we work with, Graham Reinband, with Matt Romano and Donald Baumforth and the management at the Habs for really organizing the COVID related considerations and navigating with the NHL, with Dr. Mulder, and really the bubble functioned extremely well and was able to protect the players and their families. So I think that, we look forward. Obviously, all of this is still in the planning. And we look forward to actually a new season starting. And as Kirk was saying before, we're very excited about some of the new additions to the team. And I think the planning is underway. So that's hot on the plate.
You're going to have situations where if the season resumes in January or February, COVID's still with us, a player gets injured. Normally when a player gets seriously injured, we think of the terrible Max Pacioretty incident, but there's been many others of high profile nature. They've been put in an ambulance and they're brought to the hospital, and they're not just going to walk out and come back to the dressing room. All of a sudden there's potential they might have to be isolated, they might miss games. So it's going to be a lot more complicated if someone gets injured and needs hospital care.
Absolutely. And a lot of that, in order to mitigate a lot of these considerations, actually we do a lot of simulations, both with the team specifically related to the Habs, but also in the hospital, so that we make sure that we are able to deal with these types of injuries. As a trauma surgeon, I recognize, and the team recognizes the urgency of some of these cases, whether it's whatever the injury may be, actually. So there is urgency, but at the same time, we have to put on top of that the COVID related considerations and then the return to play. So I think that, definitely we're developing the protocols, and we're making sure that, we obviously have to treat the injury or the illness as quickly as possible, but also make sure that we protect them from potential exposure to COVID.
Jean-Guy, it's a different type of event this year. Now, one of the exciting things last year, even for me, was to walk around the room and just walk up to Scotty Bowman and talk to Scotty Bowman and Trent McCleary and Serge Savard. They were just there. And I think that, the price of the ticket for a lot of sports fans who bought it was no option. And so I'm sure you want to get back to the regular format in the future. How are you going to solicit funds, not just from donations? Do you have corporate support? How's it going to work?
Well, a couple of points to highlight there. We got great corporate support. We will be asking voluntarily for donations. So that makes the event free, available to everybody. So that's kind of where we're going to obtain the support. The fun part about the event as well, it's going to be interactive. So it's not just like watching TV and you sit there passively. Greg Charles runs a fantastic platform where he's actually able to see all the questions coming in from the fans. So it'll be quite interactive. So although you're not physically there and seeing all the players, you'll still be able to ask questions on the panel that Greg is moderating during the evening.
Kirk, Hockey 911, playoff injuries, something happened that no one expected this year when Claude Juliens had to have emergency heart surgery. You all of a sudden were thrust into the role of interim head coach, and you did a great job, by the way. How did you react? That must have been a shocking situation.
Well, number one, it was that, everyone's focus was on Claude, that, he was going to be okay. And, behind the scenes, to be honest with you, by the next day we communicated, and, he's very fortunate that he got, the stint put in and everything was taken care of. So he elaborated to us that he was in good care and he felt good, and he was fine after that. Just obviously he had to leave the bubble and he needed some rest. So once that was cleared with everybody, we turned our attention to, the playoffs and winning games and that. And, but I think prior to the whole playoffs that started, we did a lot of coach Zoom calls where we prepared the team before we went to Toronto, and adjustments we'd make and everything. So I thought we were a well-prepared team going into the so-called playoffs. And so for me, the guys, we got a great group of guys. They're low maintenance, they're hard working. They stayed focused there. Like I said, Claude and the rest of the guys all worked hard to get the team prepared. So for me, it was easy. I just had to jump in and continue what was developed from the first round of knocking Pittsburgh off. So for me, it was a compliments to the rest of the staff and to the players.
Kirk, you were telling me off air that you're in Kingston at your cottage, and it's pretty safe there, COVID-wise.
Yeah, the people really respected, the rules of what we're supposed to be doing here, and obviously it's a smaller community. But I'm out in the country with a population of probably 75 people around here. I think I have more deer than we do people, but no, it is. It's, no, it is. It has been an area that it's been a nice, safe ground here. I've had a lot of my daughters come pop in and see us and everything. So that's where I've been kind of hiding for the last few months since we left the bubble.
The numbers are a little higher, Kirk, in Montreal, just slightly, like maybe 1,000 more a day.
More people. More people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Deckelbaum, COVID, of course, an issue. You're an epidemiologist. I can't leave this call without asking you, what do you think? Do you believe we're going to have a vaccine in 2021? Is there an end to this horror show?
I think it's a very dynamic story. There's always, obviously, the hope is that yes, there is a vaccine, but there's other considerations about it, is the ability to distribute mass vaccinations and things like that. But I think that it is an evolving stories, and hopefully the progress is going to be quite positive. I do want to highlight, actually, we often separate what happens in the hospital and the Habs, and obviously there was a lot of things, and obviously the Montreal General, especially regarding COVID. But I wanted to highlight some of the support that the Montreal Canadiens have shown towards the hospital. And that's one of the reasons that we're actually highlighting this year some of the, Shea Weber, Brendan Gallagher, and Nick Suzuki, is that they provided a tremendous amount of support to the hospital, along with other team members and management, specifically for our response to COVID. And whether it was through supporting PPE programs that Shea was involved in, or just basic things like making sure that the entire house staff and nursing and respiratory therapists and PABs, everybody, everybody in the operating room gets a good meal to eat from a good restaurant. I think that, Brendan, Nick, and Shea all together made a tremendous contribution to the Montreal General Hospital and the MUHC in order to sort of maintain a level of good morale, which was not easy to do actually during these these last few months.
Well, that's great. And I wish you all the best of luck, Jean-Guy. Any closing remarks you want to make?
Well, again, I invite everybody to join us November 17th at 6:30. It's a free event. Share it with your friends. I think we all love and admire our team and appreciate the doctors that support them. And they're the same team of doctors that support everybody in the community. That was one of the fun things we had last year at the event. The same ortho surgeon that helped one of our key players is the same ortho surgeon that helps people in the community that come to the hospital. So I think, again, it's a very special connection that the hospital has with the team, but more importantly as well with the community and helping everyone. So look forward to having as many people sign up and join a fun event.
That's it. So puck drop is at 6, warm up is at 6:30, puck drop at 7. We look forward to it. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, Mike.